Okay, gentlemen, well, welcome. It's my great honor this morning to introduce Mr. Ryan Glynn, graduate of VMI. Show of hands, any athletes in the audience? Anyone have aspirations as a young man to maybe be a professional athlete? I know I was one of those guys. I thought I was going to go somewhere and do something. Well, Ryan did just that. So came through the rat line, did what he had to do. Drafted from VMI as a professional baseball player, and had a 15-year career, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
15 years, and I'm sure he will tell you more about where he was and what he did. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ryan Glynn.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming. I was a first-class private, so this is going to be a very laid-back conversation. All right. Yeah, that was kind of my extent here at VMI. The approach I've taken, and I know that the conference is based upon leadership, grit, kind of getting through things. I mean, we've all seen, what's that movie with DiCaprio where his dad says the mouse goes into the bucket of cream and he turns it into butter, right? That's not what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm not going to talk to you about how I got up at 5 a.m. and did all this stuff. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about 3 different areas. One, I always looked at my career as I was building a home. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little about how when you guys walk into someone's home and you walk into $1 million home, what's the first thing you look at? You look at the granite countertops, the cool cabinets. No one looks at the foundation. So I'm going to tell you how I built the foundation for my career. Some of the things that I took when I was at school at VMI. I got a pretty good sense of humor, guys, so I'm going to keep it light. But at the end of the day, I'm going to show you. And then when I got to the major league level, I ran into a bunch of mentors, right? A bunch of different coaches, managers, people that affected me. And I was able to take things from them. So we're going to kind of go with, hey, these are the foundation. This is what some mentors brought onto me. And then I'm going to explain to you about what real life is at the end. Because you can never be prepared for something that happened to me this year. First of all, I want to thank everyone. I'm really appreciative of VMI inviting me. When they called me, they sent me an email. I was really worried they were going to take something away from me or put me on confinement, which I will tell you what happened to me once I got drafted. But first of all, the title comes from There Is No Finish Line. This comes from a T-shirt that I was given by my uncle. My uncle, his name was Dick Walden. My mom's brother married my dad's sister. So we had a very close family. And my dad had 8 brothers and sisters, so a lot of cousins. I think I had about 25 cousins. Irish Catholic family. Long story short, my uncle Dick Walden was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease when I was in my early teens. At that point, I was a talented player. I was good. I was the shortstop on the team, the guy that hit fourth. So he's like, hey Ryan, no matter what, always remember this from me. He bought me a T-shirt. Said there is no finish line. And this is a guy that he died within 6 months from Lou Gehrig's disease. So this has been my kind of motto from when I was a kid. And I still live to this day. For some reason, I keep spitting out kids, so yeah, there's no finish line. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, this is just a little bit of background on me. Okay, I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia, which is in the Hampton Roads area. I graduated from Churchland High School. I was drafted by the Texas Rangers after my junior year here at VMI in 1995 in the 4th round, 94th pick overall. You can see that the dates don't match up. I actually graduated a year later. So I did get my degree from VMI, and I'll explain to you why that was important to me. I made my major league debut in May of '99. I was inducted into the Hall of Fame in '05 here. I wasn't present for that, but I was very honored to be inducted in the Hall of Fame here. Retired from baseball in 2001. To go back to the quick aside on when I got drafted, why did I stay at VMI? Well, first of all, business policy was only offered in the spring, and I was getting a business degree. And is VMI going to make an exception for you guys? No, not for me either. So I grew up in a house of 4 boys. I was the youngest of 4 boys, and my mom sent all of her sons to school, and they all came back with no degrees. So when I went to college, number one, my dad sat down at the kitchen table and he goes, you know, son, the well's dry, but it's on you. on this one. So basically, you're getting loans and you're taking care of it yourself, or you better get a good scholarship. But I looked my mom in the face the day I went to VMI. I was standing outside the barracks, going to sign my matriculation papers, and I told her, I said, you know, I'm going to graduate from here. I'm going to go for 4 years, and I'm going to graduate. I made a promise to my mother. I know that's, for lack of a better word, gay stuff to say, right? But you feel like kind of a weakling at that point. But yeah, I made a promise to my mother, and I kept that. So when I was going through my negotiations, I was here in the summer, because I spent every summer at VMI because I wasn't very good academically. The negotiation process actually took place in Moody Hall. They flew here. The general manager of the Texas Rangers, who was then owned by George W. Bush, our president, was the owner of the Rangers at that time. But the scout that drafted me, they came in, and my mom sat with me and helped me with my negotiations. And I said, well, I made a promise to my mother. She's sitting here, and I was like, I have to graduate. And they go, sure, it's going to cost you about 25 grand. Because my signing bonus went backwards 25 grand if I wanted to stay here. But I figured, you know, you can't play baseball forever. So instead of taking a larger signing bonus and going on to a major league career or a professional career at that point, I stayed. The year I graduated, I took 22 and a half credit hours my first semester, and I took 23 my second in order to graduate, because I didn't have any other choices. I graduated with black marks underneath my eyes, looked like a raccoon a little bit, but I walked across the stage with my degree. That's why I always get worried when they call me, they're going to take it away from me. But currently, I live in Fort Myers, Florida, with my wife and my 3 sons, Kyle, Caden, and Easton. Easton is my newest addition. Kyle and Caden are from my first marriage. My ex-wife, Kanye West, wrote a pretty good song about her called Gold Digger, lack of a better word. And then Easton is from my current wife, Ashley. Ashley played 5 years volleyball at Florida Gulf Coast University, or Dunk City, and she got her master's from there. She's about 6'2", guys. So Easton is in 4T clothes at 13 months. So he's going to be my left tackle for Ohio State one day. So that's a little bit about me, guys. The question I always ask myself on a daily basis: what am I going to do when I grow up? I always told people I was going to write a book. When I got done playing baseball, what am I going to do when I grow up? I'm still playing baseball. I've been playing since I was 5. Who here played baseball when they grew up? All right? Everyone. Easy game, right? That's why everyone, when they're like, oh man, how's he not throwing strikes? It ain't that easy, guys. Not when you get to that level. But everyone relates to baseball, which is great. Because everyone played it. Not everyone played football, not everyone played basketball, not everyone played soccer. So I always said I was going to write this. This is me, I think my sophomore year. Maybe my junior year because of the wood lockers. We didn't have those then. But you can go to the next slide. This is going to go towards the foundation of what I feel created me as a leader. I own a financial planning firm now. Me and my wife, mother, partner, we have 10 advisors. Certified financial planning. It's kind of a big deal. I'm a licensed fiduciary, so it carries a legal standard. Could never have done that without my VMI degree. I make more money now than I did my first professional year at Major League level. So remember that. League minimum's a little different now though, guys. So how did I get here? And how do I get the heck out of this school? Because I tell you one thing, guys, I tried real hard to not get out of here. I did. You can go to the next slide. This is how I got here. This is my family. Is anyone here grown up in a broken home or a mom and dad separated or anything like that? Anybody? Yeah? You have a mentor in your life? Your parents still in your life? Good for you, man. Way to stick with it. I luckily had parents that stayed together, but I know what that's like to live in a separate household because I do that with my 2 older boys. So that's a real accomplishment. Number 1 for even being here. Good for you. You got some good mentors in your life. That's good. So when I grew up, like I said, I grew up in a large family. These are the fundamentals that I learned as a child from my family. Number 1, hard work. My mom and dad, my dad got married when he was 18, my mom was 21. My dad worked as a full-service gas station. He pumped gas. My mom and dad went to St. Paul's Catholic High School. They were married in August. My oldest brother Mike was born in January. You do the math. Catholics didn't like that back then, a long time ago. It's called a shotgun wedding, guys. Okay? But my mom put her life on pause for quite a bit, but she went and got her nursing degree, and she was a nurse at the Naval Hospital for a long time in Portsmouth. My dad ended up in the trucking business and ran a company called Bonnie Motor Express out of Windsor, Virginia, and then became the transportation manager for Smithfield Foods, which if you've ever had a Smithfield ham or a Gwaltney ham, it got there because my dad sent it to you. They worked really hard. We were a modest family, guys. We didn't need anything, but we definitely didn't have anything extraordinary. Came from a very athletic family. My older brother Mike played baseball. My brother Tim went to East Carolina on a football scholarship as a tight end, but walked on the baseball team and made that team. He was a left-handed pitcher. My other brother Kevin went to Salem College, West Virginia on a basketball scholarship. And then there's me, the dumb one that chose VMI. Things that you have to learn in the foundation of your home or your life home, like I like to call it, is trust. We had to trust each other. We had to trust our parents that they were going to provide for us. It's hard to trust people. When you're in a position of leadership, guys, these are some important things. People have got to trust you. So we laid all of our trust in each other. My brother Mike, once he came back from East Carolina, where he went to school, he was living at home. I was 9 and 10 years old. He used to drive me 30 minutes across town. We moved to Atlanta for 2 years. If any of you guys have ever been to Atlanta, traffic is not good. He would gripe and complain the whole way over there taking me there, but he used to take me to my baseball practices when I was 9 and 10. I'm very thankful for that, but he didn't make me feel real happy about it when I was a kid. A lot of tears. But we worked together. We still do to this day. My brothers and I were very close. I'm very lucky to have a strong family like that. Love and teamwork. These are things that you have got to learn to even begin to teach people. You can go to the next slide. My rat ear. This is my first picture. This is my parents walking up to me for the first time. I was so happy to see them. I was pouring a beer and serving hot dogs at the football game. Oh, excuse me, Cokes, because they don't do beer here. Things that I learned, and the middle one is probably, I'm going to tell you a story about betrayal, but organization. I didn't even know how to study, guys, when you got here. And you better learn how to study pretty darn quick when you get to school here. Disappointment. I learned what it was like to get Fs and Ds for mediocre effort. Efficiency, work ethic, these are things that you guys already know. All right? I'm not going to beat this stuff into your brain. I'm not going to repeat the same things over again. Betrayal. What is that? Well, when I was a rat, guys, I was a worm. Right? I was on permit. I went to baseball. They invested a lot of money in me on my scholarship when I came here, so I was a pretty important commodity at that time to the baseball program. Within the first week of my cadre week, because they found out who I was, I tore my right tricep from doing push-ups. They don't do it anymore, but like they would just kind of tag team me. Then they had rules. They'd make me walk in my room, come back out, things like that. A lot of fun stuff, right? So I got through all that. I walked around in a sling for about a week and a half, and then I was back in the rat line. But my roommates did not like the fact that I was a worm. Can you imagine that? The people you got to trust every night. So one night I get a visit from my roommate's Dyke, and he takes me down to the showers and busts me up pretty good, you know, working me out. Got a little scar to remember that from when my hand slipped out from underneath me and just kind of left me there bleeding. Betrayal from someone I was supposed to trust. I had never felt that before. I had trust in my family. No one took that from me. I've never been betrayed. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. What I learned from that is that whole experience, and this is important, that didn't teach me anything. All it taught me was anger. All right? So if you want to be a strong leader, that approach is not helpful. Understand? Because all it's going to do is create anger and sentiment. I had a long talk with my roommate the next night because I recognized this dike. Yeah, me and him got along after that. Next slide. Athletics. This was my medicine, guys. This kept me sane here. Accountability. When I came here as a freshman, I came to play right field. I was a number 4 hitter on the team, and I was going to do some relief pitching. The team counted on me as far as I learned a lot. And when I was in high school, I just kind of tried to take control. I was the best player, right? So like I had to like catch every fly ball. I was like the guy from what's that Bad News Bears. I'm catching every fly ball in the outfield. But here I learned that your job is your job. Everyone's working together. You have to be accountable for you. Don't worry about what your other teammates doing, because if they're not doing their job, it's on them. Okay? So accountability. I learned failure. Our athletics program is not the most stellar in the country. As you know what it's like, we lose a lot. So I learned to deal with that. I hadn't learned that much. But failure is an important thing. It taught me how to deal with failure, and that was something that led me to have a good baseball career as I moved on, being able to deal with that. And leadership. My junior year, I was the captain of the team along with 2 other guys. And we actually had a hand in choosing the coach that was coming in, Coach Scott Gines. They actually allowed us to have a say-so on that, which was an important experience because not only was I stepping in trying to help the current team, but I was also the people that had been recruited and were expecting that other coach to be there. And that's the approach I took, is this the guy that I would want to play for if I wanted to play for someone else? So you have to think about that when you're doing stuff like that. You have to also think about the next line of things that are coming ahead. Next slide, please. Academics. Man, I started getting better looking, didn't I, when I got that hair? So perseverance. Okay, so do anyone know what academic probation is? Anyone ever been on that? Really? Yeah. Wow, there's a humility for me, guys. So my first semester at VMI, I had a whopping 1.8, and then baseball season started, and I missed so much class that I got a 1.0. So after my freshman year, the thing that I cared about the most, the thing I came to do at VMI was taken away from me. I was academically ineligible unless I went to summer school. So me and Senior Mears, I don't know if she's still here. She was my Spanish teacher. Colonel Daly, I don't know if he's still here, he probably retired. I remember those names because those people actually helped me get back on track. I went to summer school, I became academically eligible to play, but on academic probation. I think I had a 1.6. But after that, I kind of learned it. And it also taught me self-worth, guys. I started learning how to do things for myself. I started learning how to study and get better at that. And that, to me, that gave me a lot of self-worth. Next slide, please. Graduation. This is my mom and my dad. I did it, guys, 4 years. Kept the promise to my mother. There's my father on the right. I was so proud of myself. I had never felt like that before. You guys will feel that. It's a great feeling to walk across the stage, no matter what school you're at. Okay, guys, it's a huge accomplishment. I just kind of want you guys to really pay attention to the words underneath. Don't listen to my stories, because these are what built the foundation for me. I had entrusted it. This had grown inside me, so I didn't have to worry about that. No one was going to take anything away from me as I went forward. Right there, in 3 days, I'm going to go play professional baseball, and I got a college degree. I'm on cloud 9 right there, right? And no matter what happens, on the first pitch, if I blow out and never pitch a game again, I got a VMI degree. So, like, you don't even understand, like, there was no worries at that time. Then life creeps in. I'd like to stop right now if there's any questions, guys. And then we're going to go to the next phase. Any questions? Am I boring you yet? No. Okay, good. You can go to the next slide, please. So Major League Baseball. I'm going to switch gears to mentors I have. So you can see underneath there's going to be a lot of quotes, guys. When they asked me to do this, I had never really looked at this before. And I found this on Wikipedia. These are all my stats. And I look back on this, And I can remember every challenge I faced along the way. Like in 2002, when I got sent down out of the major leagues and I went and played for the Milwaukee Brewers, they sent me to AAA and I got released. I got fired. I couldn't pitch worth a crap in Milwaukee. I never felt that. I've been fired, terminated, no job. So what did I do? I had a pity party. Felt sorry for myself and learned valuable lessons along the way. But then other mentors, other coaches came to help me. And this is what you're going to do in a leadership role. You're going to be there for the guy that's struggling. You play like you practice. Bill Crone. Bill Crone is a VMI grad, believe it or not. Him and my dad were best friends. My roommate at VMI, his name is Brady Crone. He lives in Richmond, Virginia now. Brady and myself, our mothers shared the same birthing room in the hospital. He was born 3 days before me. So we are legitimate lifelong friends. We grew up, played Little League together. Bill Crone was always coaching with my father, and he had this saying that he said, "Y'all, you play like you practice. You really do. If you study half-ass, the result's going to be half-ass." And that's an important lesson that I learned. He always kept saying it because I was just a little kid, but I didn't realize what it meant. And I took that to heart as it went on. But yeah, Bill Crone has 4 boys that all graduated from VMI. Brady and I were roommates here. He was in Foxtrot. He's a little guy. But now he is a computer science guy in Richmond. You can go to the next slide. This is me throwing a bullpen in Oakland, California. This is a true statement, guys, in real life. The only person that will feel sorry for you is yourself. Your wife, your friend, your girlfriend, they might feel a moment, but the only true person that's ever going to feel sorry for you is yourself. If you allow that to control you, it'll take you down. Brad Arnsberg was my pitching coach for roughly about 4 or 5 years. We bounced around. He was a major league pitching coach for the Marlins, Toronto Blue Jays, and Arizona Diamondbacks. The guy that taught me this deals with addiction. Became addicted to cocaine as a major league pitching coach. So you can see, the only person that's going to feel sorry for you is yourself. So even people that can give good advice might have demons as well, guys. You have to take it from everyone, okay? You can go to the next slide. That's me dodging a line drive. It's about to take off my forehead in Toronto. Rubio Durazo hit that ball. There's only one stat here that matters, and that's wins. My first major league manager. So, professional baseball, are you guys familiar with how it works? You start off in rookie league and you work your way up. There's A ball, there's low A ball, mid A, high A, triple A, double A, triple A. Well, as I worked my way up through the minor league system, I would approach each season like, I'm going to get to the next level. I'm going to move up to double A. I'm going to move up to triple A. And this kept happening. It kept happening, guys. Then I got to the major league. There's nothing above there. Nothing. There's only wins. I didn't know how to win. I knew how to get to the next level. So it's important. So whenever you approach things, say for instance you're put in charge, say you're in charge of your, what are they called? I don't even know what they're called anymore. Your company or battalion. All right? The win is all that matters. Okay, guys? It really is. At the end of the day, how we get to that win, we're going to try to do it as efficiently as possible, but at the end of the day, it's the win is all that matters. That's all people care about. And you have to take that approach. There's a lot of failure that goes along with this statement. Okay, guys? And the way I explain it, the way it was taught to me is there's going to be a lot more failure in your life than success. All right? So when you get a win, you got to fill the cup up. Okay? So say you got a glass of water and it's empty. If you get a win, fill it up. Because every failure is going to pour out a little bit. What happens is when we get a win, we don't recognize it and appreciate it. And we never fill the cup up. And eventually the cup runs out of water because the failures will take over. When you get a win, you know how hard it is to throw a 93-mile-an-hour fastball down and away? The odds are like 7% to do it efficiently like that. And I had to attempt to do that 120 times a night. Okay? When you can do something extraordinary like that, fill it up, man. Be proud of yourself. Fill it up, because it's important, because the failures are coming. You see that? That's a failure, right? 102 miles an hour back at my forehead, and I hit the spot. So guys, when you get the time or the opportunity to fill up your, if you do well on an exam, feel good about yourself, man. I think that we lose sight of that. We always move on to the next challenge. You're going to run out of gas, man. You got to fill it up. Next slide, please. Mike Glynn, my father, he was such a wonderful man of words. My dad was hard, guys. He was a tough guy. But that's why he accomplished so much. Don't look back, because someone might be gaining on you. I'm going to tell you a story about a phone call I had with my dad. In the year 2000, I got called up to the major leagues out of AAA to pitch a game against the LA Dodgers. One of our pitchers had gotten hurt. I was going to come up for one day and go back down. It was set in stone, right? So I got called up. I was going to pitch against Kevin Brown. You guys know who Kevin Brown is? He had just signed a 7-year, $120 million deal with the Dodgers, and he had won the Cy Young Award the year prior. Needless to say, Vegas was not on my side in that game. So I get called up. I go up there. I carry a no-hitter into the 7th inning. It's 0-0. I have one out in the 7th inning. FP Santangelo comes up and hits a base hit up the middle. Next guy hits a base hit. So I got 2 men on, double play. I'm out of the inning, right? Ended up winning that game. I beat the Cy Young Award winner, 2-0. We scored 2 in the bottom half of that inning. I pitched to the 8th, and John Wetland, who was my closer at that time, he got paid an extensive amount of money to do that, took over. Man, did I fill my cup up that night. All right? Then there's Dad the next day. Don't look back, because someone might be gaining on you. I said, hey, Dad, you watch a game last night? Yes, son, sure did. I said, yeah, it was a good one, huh? He's like, yeah. He goes, what happened in the 7th? That explains my father. And I got very angry with my dad on the phone, and I was like, what are you talking about, man? Right? And we had a courageous conversation at that point. He's like, son, don't look back, because someone might be gaining on you. I fought my entire life for my father to be proud of me, and he was proud of me. He was very proud of me. He just never told me. I had a conversation at Easter this year. My wife goes up to my dad, because, you know, I have a 9-year-old boy. He's okay, guys. He's going to be an engineer. Let's just face it. Okay? She goes, when did you know there was something special about Ryan? His response was, you know, Ryan was always a good teammate. I fought for that from my father. That's what drove me. That was my grit. I wanted to hear it. Next slide, please. Kind of tongue-in-cheek, act like you care. When I was in Japan, I went there for 4 years at the end of my career. Trey Hillman was my manager. He ended up coming back and managing the Kansas City Royals. He was a bench coach for the Houston Astros when Bo Porter was there. I mean, this very, very good baseball mind. But he was a foreign manager in Japan, and a successful one at that. And this was my 2nd year in Japan when I worked with Trey. My 1st year, I went over with a different team, and then they brought me over in our free agent contract. This was the largest contract I ever signed. It was a 2-year deal for $4.5 million. So they're expecting me to perform. Okay, guys? And one day I'm struggling there at the beginning of the year, because I had never had that security in my job, as far as everything was year to year with me. Now, like, someone had invested in me, and I felt like I needed to perform. You ever heard of that before? Like, players kind of feel like, well, they gave me all this money, I got to perform now. And I went to Trey, and he goes, act like you care. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, just act like you care, and things will take care of themselves. Because I couldn't even speak to the guys. They were speaking Japanese. Right? Well, what do you mean act like you care? He said, you just go and approach every day and act like you care, and things will take care of themselves. And he was right. This is important because when you lead people in your company, your battalion, they're going to come to you with stuff that you could care less about. They're going to tell you, I have 10 advisors that work for me, and all of them, the world's ending if they don't close the deal, right? So you have to, at some times, act like you care. It allows them to connect with you. It's important. At the end of this season, the Japanese players voted me Father of the Year. First foreign player to get that. Because of I used to bring my son to the field quite a bit. Next slide, please. So those are some good mentors I had, things that I learned from them. How much time we got?
About 15 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to finish up here, guys, and then we'll leave about 5-10 minutes to just kind of talk. Is that good with you guys? So this year, 2008, sometimes life comes right up and smacks you in the face. 2018 has been the most difficult year of my life. And I'm very glad that they called me here because I'm going to explain something to you guys. Life, no matter how much control you think you have it or how good you got it, it always comes up and grabs you. And you have to be prepared. You have to have the foundation that goes back to the first part of the speech. Without that strong foundation and believing in that. One of my biggest attributes when I played is I did the same routine between every start. No one understood why. If I had a bad game, they go, man, why don't you work on that? I was like, nope. Because you know what? I had 4 days in between those starts, and I did the same thing. And if there was a good result, right? 4 days of work, good result. 4 days of work, good result. 4 days of work, bad result. It didn't have anything to do with the 4 days because I did the same thing here and had a good result. Find a routine you like and stick with it and master it. Instead of constantly trying to fix problems. Move forward, deal with failure, and move forward. Stay with your routine, guys. You can go to the next slide. This is me and my father. This was my recruiting trip to VMI. This is my rat year. I think we're at the Naval Academy playing. My dad was diagnosed, and you're going to learn a lot about my father today. I'm sorry, guys, but this is important to me. My dad was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 16. That might not mean a lot to you guys nowadays, but my dad was 74 years old. So back then, his life expectancy was about 48 when he was diagnosed with that. He gave himself insulin shots. There was no pumps. I always wondered what my dad was doing. Hopefully it wasn't heroin. But I'm just kidding, guys. He used to give himself shots in his stomach every day, 3 times a day for insulin. And I never quite understood or grasped how difficult his illness was until I got older. Next slide. In 1999, this is Camden Yards, Memorial Day weekend. My dad was diagnosed with cardiovascular disease along with his diabetes. He formed a 95% blockage right here in his coronary artery. So the surgery at that time was to go in and put a stent, basically like a fishing net. They put the stent in and the block will come loose, and the net will catch it, and it's gone, right? But due to his diabetes, it was very difficult for my dad to have surgery. And secondly, the result of failure was stroke because the blood clot would go right in the brain and he would die. Really wanted my dad to be proud of me, guys. That's all I fought for. He was my goal, this man. Next slide, please. This picture is at Easter in April. My dad had his left kidney removed in 2007 because it had just become dysfunctional, and he lived off one kidney for quite a bit. Then in 2014, the one kidney he had went below 20% function, so he needed to get dialysis 3 times a week, guys. Does anyone have any idea what it's like to go through dialysis? Yes, it is.
My father-in-law was on dialysis for over 10 years.
Yep.
3 days a week, 8 hours a day.
They would pull like 5 to 6 pounds of fluid off of him. He got up and was there 3 days a week, 6 a.m. For what? Was that life? No one, until my father got to this age, I didn't understand his grit. What I did playing professional baseball was nothing. This guy fought for life. He wanted to be there for his sons and his grandchildren. No one holds a baby better than my dad. He's one of the most gentle guys. So, November, Thanksgiving last year, my dad calls and says he's got lung cancer. He's got a tennis ball right here, right? So he starts his chemo, which actually, when you're on dialysis, guys, is actually pretty easy because the dialysis will clean you out and get rid of the toxins. It's actually better to be on dialysis than action. We were like, all right, dude, we're rocking and rolling. We're going to beat this thing. So, Biggs is what we call my dad. Story about my dad is when I played baseball, you know that how Patchen's kind of, the Patchen's minor now, it used to be called Patchen Field. But center field has that flag up on the hill, right? My dad used to park right there. They used to call that Biggs Hill when I was here. Because my dad would bring my mom and all my brothers and all the rats that I knew. And just people, and plus Brady's brother was here, he was a senior. My dad would buy so much Hardee's fried chicken that anyone that walked by could have whatever they want. And they just celebrated their son playing baseball. They were very proud of me, but they never said it, which is what I wanted. So my dad calls me after this. We go up there for Easter. My dad lives in Portsmouth still, or he lived in Portsmouth, for that matter. About 2 weeks after this, he was finishing up his chemo, and he went to go get a scan, and he calls me on the phone and says, it's spread. Now it's in the top of my left lung, and it's gone to my right. And we're having this conversation, and my brothers and I knew it wasn't going to work, guys. So I asked my dad on the phone, I said, Dad, did you think it was going to work? And he goes, of course. He goes, I've beaten everything. He says, I've never lost. Which says something to me. This guy never, ever saw a finish line. My dad had the blessing of being able to choose when he died. If he discontinued dialysis, he would pass away. They gave him 6 to 8 days, right? Or he could sit there and continue dialysis, and the lung cancer would kill him. So he had a choice. My dad chose to go out on his own terms. He was surrounded by all of us as he entered hospice care. You can go to the next slide, please. Then, guys, I got a phone call from my father. He told me, I'm going to call you back, and don't answer. I said, okay, Dad, no problem. You're in control. This is the phone call I got.
Hey, son.
You guys hear that?
Just called to let you know I was thinking about you and how much I love you. Not only do I love you, I'm very, very proud of you. You've been through a lot, son, and you've handled it so, so well, and become a better man because of it. Just know that I'm with you always. And if you ever need me, just give me a call. I could never be there for you or your brothers any more than I am right now. I love you, son. Take care of your family, but most of all, take care of yourself. Talk to you soon, pal. I love you. Bye-bye.
Next slide, please. This is my dad. 12 hours before he died. It's my niece, Bailey, on the left. She's a junior at East Carolina University. She runs the cheerleading program. She's really pretty good. Really pretty. But May 19th, my father passed away. I look at this photo, and he's still freaking fighting. You see the strain on his face? And he ain't in the rat line, guys. He is fighting for life. He wants to touch her. That's grit. All this other stuff is words, man. I don't know what has manifested so much motivation for life inside my father. I wish I knew, because I'd bottle it and sell it. How we respond to the toughest times will pave the way of our future. What am I going to do, guys? I think about my father every second of the day. Dude, he's attached to everything in my life. What am I going to do? Am I going to have a pity party? It's not time for pity parties, guys. I got 3 on deck, man. I got 3 boys. I got a wife who is hard. Next slide, please. I'm just going to give you some of my 2 cents, guys, and you can take it for what it's worth, okay? And then we'll talk. Wisdom is better than weapons of war. This is a solid saying right here. The smart guy always wins out. It's much harder to get wisdom than it is to just buy a sword. The race is not to the swift or the battle to the strong, but time and chance happen to them all. 2 weeks before the Southern Conference tournament in my sophomore year, we went to Marshall to play, and I was throwing 84, maybe topping out at 87. 2 weeks later, we went to the Southern Conference tournament. We played Marshall in the first round. I gave up 2 runs in the top of the first. I hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the first and pitched all 9 innings. We won 5-2. Went back to the hotel room after the game, and there was a phone call from who my coach at that point was, Chris Finwood. It says, "Ryan, you need to come down to my room." And I was like, oh boy, because I went out last night. Right? So I thought I was in trouble. I go in the room, and he goes, "You know how hard you were throwing tonight?" I was like, "No." He goes, "You were throwing 94 miles an hour in the 9th inning." In 2 weeks, I went from 87 to 94. He threw well, back in those days, guys, we didn't have the internet like they do now. So they had postcards that you had to hand write all your information on. And they throw them all on the bed, and there's 30 teams. And I see them, the Blue Jays, Braves, Indians. I got to fill out all these scout cards for these guys. My life changed at that moment. I'm a man of faith, guys. I'm a Christian man. I was given a strong ability to play baseball as a child. I had natural ability. And I worked hard, worked very hard. And I feel like God went, "You know what? I gave you this. And look how hard you've worked." And in that 2-week period, he went, "Here's a little more. Now what are you going to do?" And I truly believe that, guys. Because I didn't do anything different. I told you I did the same routine. Explain it. You guys figure it out and explain it to me. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might. Whatever it is, guys. Give 100%. Whether it's to your family, to your company, your battalion, your roommates, people that are important to you, your job as you get out of here. Do it with all your might. No regrets. Know what I'm saying? You guys ever seen that movie? We Are the Millers? Come on, guys. It's a joke. All right, next slide. I appreciate you guys coming. And I'm just going to open up to discussion, guys. Or if you're hungry, you guys can head on.
Yeah, folks, we've got about 10 minutes, so this is your opportunity.
I think my jacket up's hot. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever want to quit when you were having a rough day in baseball?
Yes, many times.
What about your friends?
Oh, I got this thing on, don't I? Sorry. Hold on. So there was I have a vague memory. I was in AA. I was playing for the Tulsa Drillers, and I went to Shreveport, Louisiana, right next to the Independence Bowl, and it's about 147 degrees in Shreveport in August, just to let you guys know. So I had pitched terrible the night before. I've been having a great season. So I went to the field and he said, you know what? I used to always do a 30-minute run the day after I pitched, and I would do a leg workout. That was my routine. And I get there, and I always took the first bus. I took the second bus that day. And Brad Arnsberg, who was my pitching coach, came up to me and he goes, what are you doing? I was like, you know what, man, I'm tired. And that was the first time that I wanted to quit. He actually grabbed me out of the chair and took me for a run with him. He was a really good mentor, really good guy. But there was parts, like when I was in Calgary in 2002, I had my son at home. I had very little money at that point because my signing bonus guys, we don't get paid very good in the minor leagues. I'm just going to be upfront with you. So I was sending money home to my family who was in Fort Myers, Florida, and I was sleeping on a floor with 3 other guys in a night-to-night kind of place and having to wake up every day and go perform. I wanted to quit then. I was like, is this worth it? Because my crutch was always my VMI degree. I knew I could go back and do that, but what am I going to do when I grow up? I wasn't ready to grow up at that point. So I just kept working, and maybe I got it from my father. I just kept going. I don't know why. I didn't have the guts to go in and tell someone I quit. I'd rather just get hurt. But thank you for asking. You're welcome.
So Ryan, how did you know it was time to end it and move on to another phase of your life?
So in 2009, my son Caden was born in September of 2009. My older son Kyle, who's now 19, I'd spent a lot of time away from him. And I was at the end of my 4-year career in Japan. I was like, you know, this might be a good time to hang him up. And that was 2009. So I went home for a year. And then I decided that I don't want to be home anymore. And so I went back and played again. And I got signed in 2011. The opportunity came up for a Japanese club that needed a pitcher. But they said they wanted me to go to Taiwan and get healthy. So they said I'd go there for 6 to 8 weeks. And those promises are never kept. So I went to Taiwan. I signed a contract with them. And I was going to go there, get healthy, then move on to Japan. They ended up changing their mind and wanting a left-handed pitcher, and I'm a right-handed pitcher. So I'd already committed myself to a contract with Taiwan, so I finished my career. I just went ahead and finished the season. But it was the first time I ever got injured. I was never injured as a player, which is something that being accountable and being consistent, that's all professional sports want. They want you out there every 5th day. And I really prided myself on staying healthy. So I was never injured in my career until that year I tore my tricep. And that was when I was like, yeah, that one hurts. And then that's when, when I couldn't tell my mind to tell my body it didn't hurt anymore, is when I just couldn't convince my body that it didn't hurt anymore. Got something?
Other than physical abilities, talent, what attributes do you think separates players that you played with collegiate level and the lower levels of pro ball to the major league teams?
Wisdom. Students of the game. They watch the game. They're professionals. That's their job. You could just see the difference between a player that came to work that day or came to play, right? And there's 2 different things. There were some guys that were just uber talented. A lot of the Latin players are very uber talented, and they're very just passionate about the game. They love the game, which is important. Did you see one of the foundations was love? You're never going to get better at something unless you love it. You can't grind into someone's head that they want something unless they actually love it. I think this is a big falter in youth athletics currently with just how big it's gotten. This with baseball. The 12-year-olds are throwing 120 innings and their parents it's all about winning. So this is not good, guys. And then as a professional athlete, whenever I used to coach, I remember that, it's a cool story. A dentist came up to me after the game, and he thought that he was a better baseball coach than me. And so I'm sitting there, you know, he didn't like that I sent a guy home, and we lost the game, blah, 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 right? So he comes over to my car, and I'm like, first of all, I'm like, why are you coming to my car? This is a Little League game. And he comes over and he goes, I can't believe, you know, the kids really wanted to win. I said, hey, dude, I said, where'd you go to college? He goes, I went to UVA. I said, really? He said, where'd you go to dental school? He goes, I went to the University of Florida. I was like, really? I said, when did you work on someone's mouth? First time. And he goes, he said the year, whatever. I said, you know what? Let me know your schedule tomorrow. Because I'm going to come in your office and I'm going to yell at you while you're doing someone's mouth. Because by the way, I've been playing baseball for 30 years. I got a freaking PhD. And now he's one of my friends. But to go back to baseball players that strive to move forward, we're very different guys. You can't outwork us. There's just something about that we have inside of us that we do not know how to lose, even when we lose. And you could see that in more of the American players. If they lost, they would go to video, they would study, they would go to guys on the other team that they played with. Hey, what did you see? Like, they're learning. And they showed up on the first bus every day. They worked hard, man. And they carried values. They had good foundations in their lives. So to separate it, they did it that was their job. That's how they supported their family. And they looked at it that way. Yes?
You said your motivation to be successful was so that your father was proud of you. So now that your father's passed away, what's your motivation now?
Good question. So I haven't figured it out yet. Currently, it's my family. I'm going to take the advice that my dad left to me on that voicemail. Take care of your family. But most of all, take care of yourself. I can't explain to you, has anyone ever lost a father? It is a life-changing event. My mother's still alive. She's 78. She lives in Portsmouth. But I have a mentor currently. His name is John Willender. He owned a company called B&E Tool, which is up in Massachusetts. He moved to Florida. He has a net worth of $120 million and had never had a financial advisor. John moved down to Fort Myers, Florida, and wanted someone to do some pitching lessons with his son. So I volunteered. John now is my largest client. But I eat with him quite a bit. You know, we have lunches together because he built a large business and sold it for an exuberant amount of money. And when my dad died, he's like, you know, he goes, his screenshot is still his father. And his dad died 17 years ago. So, not to say that moms aren't important, because they are. They are very, very important. I'm going through that with myself, and I don't know when or how I'm ever going to get over that, because he is here in everything that I do. And I can't shake it. It's kind of a good thing. I don't want to forget him. But I foresee me doing a lot for my children. My wife and I are beginning to start a nonprofit in Fort Myers for underprivileged children. It's called, what did my wife name it? We read to underprivileged children at their schools. We have a school there, a public school that's underfunded. And so literacy outreach, that's what she named it. So we're going to start doing that, helping people. My father, I learned a lot about him when he passed away. One of his pallbearers I had never met. Huge African-American guy, bald head, about 6'5", 250. I had never seen this guy before in my life. No one knew who he was, except for my dad's wife. My parents separated after 40 years of marriage. You figure it out, riddle me that. But when he got remarried, my dad went to work at the end of his career on the terminal right there in Portsmouth, where it's a big, huge terminal. Probably, I don't even know what it's called, but a lot of shipping goes through there. My dad, this guy has no father, no mother. My dad used to take him to lunch every Wednesday and teach him how to be a father. And never told a person. until we passed away. The guy walked in, and we're like, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I'm supposed to tell you this." So he just did things. He helped out with the Oasis Food Bank, and I feel like I should follow in this footsteps. I think I should really start helping some people, because he would be proud of that. I'm actually considering putting a monument thing, like a little stone thing, out on Biggs Hill and naming it Biggs Hill. But I'm talking to Coach Hader about that. He'd like that. He loved this school, guys. He never had anything like this. Oh, fun fact about my family. Youngest son, first one to graduate from college. My brother said that at my wedding. He goes, "Good job, Mom." But no, all my brothers have become successful. My oldest brother's an accountant in Greensboro, North Carolina for a trucking company, Epps Transport. And my second oldest brother is a surgical assistant, got into Eastern Virginia Medical School on doctor's recommendation alone, and he's a surgical assistant. He graduated #1 in his class. And my brother Kevin, he's still trying to figure it out.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for Ryan.
Thanks, guys.